Hi, and welcome to a new podcast episode with a guest, Jordan, the EV guy. You might recognise his face. And alongside me, as always, we've got Kevin Booker, Alex Grant, and myself, Tim Aylen. And today we're going to be talking about EV trolling, anti-EV agenda with our guest, Jordan. And essentially, this came off the back of being trolled myself on TikTok recently. And just had the conversation with Jordan. I thought, you know what? After knowing Jordan for a little while, this might be a good time to get you on. So, Jordan, do you want to give everyone a bit of an intro, and we'll go from there?
Yeah, thank you for the invite. I love stuff like this. I love open conversations, firing out some questions. For those that don't know who I am, I call myself the EV guy, which I get stick for, unsurprisingly. It all started as a newsletter a couple of years ago. I was working for Shell in the EV industry, recently gone self-employed, supporting companies with sustainability and salary sacrifice and electric vehicles, all this sort of stuff. But a big part of what I do is content, myth busting, educational, EV content, mainly because I find it interesting. And if people resonate with that and they find it interesting, then great. But my channels are growing quite quickly. I think because it's quite a divisive topic and hotly contested, let's say. My channels grow quite quickly, which is great. My LinkedIn, I think, combined with my business page and my personal page, we're up at about 50,000 followers. So yeah, we're doing well on LinkedIn. Facebook is growing, TikTok is growing, and then I was never a fan of Twitter. I started an X account recently. We're up at about 1,200 followers in the space of about a month. So yeah, it's a divisive topic, but I absolutely love it. So thank you for having me on, and hopefully we can tackle a few of these myths.
No, awesome. And I'll go through what we're going to be talking about today in terms of the discussion points. And I think it was quite interesting to highlight as well that you've not been on X very long, and you're growing very fast. And I think you had a recent visitor, didn't you, to your
I did.
page.
Mr. Elon Musk himself, the SpaceX, Tesla, and X owner, was on my profile. A lot of people didn't believe me, actually, so I took a screen grab, which I can provide if anyone doesn't believe me. But I posted randomly. I'm one of them people that kind of keeps track of my following, and I check my analytics. Obviously, it's linked into my business, so I have to keep track of it. And I just happened to realize that my follower count had dropped about 2 or 3 people in a space of about 10 minutes. And I thought, that's weird. That doesn't normally happen. And it was off the back of posting about Tesla, and it was nothing too crazy, nothing political. It was just a Tesla post, my opinion, and my follower count started to go down. So I posted about the fact that my follower count was going down due to posting about Tesla, and it kind of snowballed from there. And then I posted another Tesla post the day after, and it was about Tesla sales, Tesla doing well in some countries, not in other countries, etc. And it just went viral. It went ridiculous. And I was scrolling one afternoon and I noticed liked by Elon Musk. So that's my claim to fame for now. And that sent my X account soaring, 1,000 followers in about 3 hours because people had seen that he liked it, and it sent the algorithm going a little bit crazy. I think he's got 260 million followers. So yeah, it sent my account semi-viral for a short while, which was fantastic.
That's good. That's good. Well, like I said, we'll get into the detail with regards to what you're doing out there in the space, because ultimately, the way I see it, in a good way, as I would call it, kind of stirring up the hornet's nest a little, with some good kind of factual data to come back to. A lot of the points, points that are made, some of the myths, I think. And these are the things that we're going to, discuss with regards to charging speed and waiting times, the myths versus the reality, cost of owning an EV, total cost of ownership versus ICE, depreciation, which often gets talked about, in the social space, short-term and long-term trends, fear of new tech, because obviously there's quite a lot of people that, they won't, they'll put lots of negative comments out there, videos, and they've probably not even, most cases, not even driven an electric vehicle. I think they're just scared of this new technology in a lot of ways. The EVs aren't green. Production versus lifetime emissions, battery CO2 emissions, environmental impact, so net benefit over life cycle, clean air benefits, urban air quality and health, which for me is a really important factor. That's kind of one of the main drivers for me, as well as the excitement of this new technology and the power, of course. You know, being a Chargehead, massive car nut. Battery lifespan, you know, talking about that a lot of the time. Battery, you know, people saying, oh, batteries don't last X amount of time. And as people will know when watching the channel, that I've got this 224,000 mile Tesla Model 3, which has actually gone on a nice long drive this weekend. So on holiday, unfortunately without me. And battery replacement costs, because everyone said, oh, you know, when the battery dies, you know, it's going to cost £20,000, which, so those are all the things that we're going to cover. Alex, Kev, have you got anything? Obviously, me and John have been talking, but you guys have got anything to add that you want to talk about today?
I guess on the top of this is, how have you seen this change over the time that you've been working on it? I mean, have the myths changed, or do you still see some of the same stuff coming up over and over again?
Surprisingly, I get asked that a lot. Like, obviously, someone that's quite heavily involved in content and social media, what has the trend been over the last 5-7 years while I've been involved? We all have seen the EV fire myths that were around, 4 years ago, 3 years ago. And we still see a little bit of that, but we've kind of moved on from the big stuff. I think because of all the education that goes on from all four of us on the call and others that are in our community in the EV space through social media, we tend to tackle them as they come along, and we get accused of being defensive, whatever it might be. But the education is happening continuously as the myths and misinformation is happening. So we do tackle them as they go. The ones that Tim mentioned seem to be the current ones, and ones that I get asked about a lot. Maybe not asked about. I get comments on my social media telling me that these things aren't right. I'm lying. I'm spreading misinformation. But I don't post anything that I can't back up. I always double and triple check. The good thing is there's a whole EV community out there that are tackling the myths. EV fire myth seems to have gone away a little bit. It does pop its head up every now and again. But yeah, it's things like, oh, EVs aren't greener. They're pointless. They're expensive. Why would I get one when my car works fine? Like, it's the usual stuff. And if your car works fine and you love it and you prefer that, then stay with that car. Like, there's no pressure on anybody to do what I enjoy or do what we enjoy. I have my preference. You have your preference. Crack on.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, one of the big myths I've started to see trying to rear his head is about EVs not being safe for different sectors of population, which is like, I'll be honest with you, my wife started driving EVs before me back in 2015, and she's never felt unsafe driving her EV. And it's like, that's the one that I keep getting more recently. And I you know, that worries me, because like, I don't think we should try and instill fear in people. I think EVs are for everyone. It's not just, you know, yes, there are sort of difficulties around disability access, but I know that's changing with the PAS regulations. You know, and I mean, one of the problems which is going to be difficult, which I don't know how we deal with, is the cable weight, because that's just a physics thing. I mean, that's literally the fact that you've got such high currents going through a liquid cooled cable. Well, I mean, imagine how heavy they'd be if they weren't liquid cooled. But I mean, that's one of the difficulties. But I just think, you know, I think there does need, you know, as we said, it's not perfect, but there are things that can help with that, you know, like strain relief on the cable and stuff like that. And it's just myths like that people are pushing at me now, which is weird, because that's a new one that I have people trolling me on, which I've not really had that trolling before.
Yeah, accessibility.
How do they mean unsafe? Sorry.
I was going to say, accessibility is a big topic. Like, how do we incorporate charging into all types of drivers? Wheelchair drivers are a prime example. And I had quite an open conversation with a wheelchair driver in the last few weeks. And he openly told me that he thinks he would struggle at a rapid charger. But at the same time, he struggles at a fuel pump. He's had to change the way that he does things to fit around working a fuel pump, to make him sure that he can actually refuel his car. And he said it would be no different to an EV charger. He would have to figure out how to do it. So for me, context is so important. Yes, it's not perfect. Yes, improvements are needed, but just going off his experience and his being quite truthful with me, I don't think there's too much difference in the two things. I think you just have to find a way of making it work for each individual person.
No, absolutely. I think from a safety point of view, I mean, you know, there's a few details there, not only from a accessibility point of view, easy for me to say, but also, you know, where I suppose a female charging alone, that sort of thing. But you know, the same sort of thing is with petrol, which is a really good point, Jordan, you're making there. Yeah, I mean, in terms of charge, well, let's start at the top. But I will take this opportunity to say, everyone that's watching so far, feel free to whack it in the comments if you've got any questions. So yeah, if you want to bring any topics into the limelight, or any EV trolls, because I want to get onto that piece as well, because I think that's an important thing to talk about, and who's out there doing what. But yeah, charging speed and wait times, you know, myths versus reality. I think it's quite a detailed topic. It's not as simple, and this is the thing with electric vehicles and charging compared to petrol station and filling up your ICE vehicle. It's not just as simple as filling it up. There is more to it. And I think a lot of that is, I think it kind of scares people off, because you need to know about more things like, you know, different battery chemistries, different voltages, different, you know, how warm your battery is, different chargers speeds. There's quite a lot there. But, you know, what are you seeing at the moment, Jordan, in terms of that particular topic?
Yeah, this gets commented over and over again on all the platforms that I post content on. It's the whole, I don't have hours to wait to charge. My time is valuable. And like, I get it. Like, the more experienced of an EV driver you are, the easier we tend to see that people are finding it. I'm 7 years in now, and I can't remember the last time I ran into an issue at a charge point. And I've posted videos on this, showing people the time that I pull up at the charger, showing people plugging it in, showing people other cars on the car park that are parked there whilst I go into the services, so people can't question the timeline. I did a video on this about 3 months ago where I pulled up at a charger, plugged in, went inside, showed people me grabbing my drink, showed people the time frame. It was 9 minutes. 9 minutes I was at a charger, and I was back in the car and back on the road. And I made a point to point out the petrol cars that were still parked on that same car park. They were there when I arrived, and they were there when I left. So people can't tell me that your time is valuable, but yet you're spending more time on average at a services than I am as an EV driver. So yeah, 9 minutes to grab a drink, go to the toilet, and get back in my car and back on the road. And I've had it in the past where I've had the warning from Tesla, your car is full, get back to your car, to avoid the overstay charges. And anyone that knows anything about Tesla, they are £1 a minute. So you get back to your car very quickly, or it gets very, very expensive very quickly. But like you mentioned, Tim, there's a lot of variables. Not all chargers work, and we're not saying that they do. Not all chargers deliver the power that is advertised, and they're very clever with their wording. Up to 350 kilowatts, up to 250 kilowatts, and that doesn't guarantee that speed. Yes, you can arrive with a preconditioned battery, which helps. Yes, you can have everything in line to give you a fast charge, but you get there, it delivers 45 kilowatts. You could be sat there for 45 minutes. And that's where the pain point is, and that's where people get this almost misinformation from, because they think that every charge is worst case scenario, whereas an experienced EV driver most of the time can pull up to a charger, get their charge, and get back on the road very quickly, especially using the Tesla network, because it's very, very reliable.
Well, I'd say as well, it's improved so much with the normal network. Like yesterday I did quite an epic road trip. I just thought some of my friends were doing the Le Mans 24-hour karting thing in Teesside, and I just randomly decided to drive from Swansea to Teesside and back, which is a 653-mile round trip. And I did it in
just randomly.
As you do.
I did it in a car that I wasn't familiar with. I did it in a press car, which was the Skywell B11. So I had no idea what charging speed it would do or anything like that. But it was easy. I spent 97 minutes on rapid charges in total. But I was charging while stopped, not stopping to charge. So I stopped on the way up for a drink and a bacon roll. The chargers, no queues. So yeah, it was only it was one of the older grid serve ones, the medium rate ones. So it was only putting in 45 kilowatt hours. But I was there for 18 minutes by the time I'd gone to the toilet, ordered my bacon roll and ate it. And that topped me back up to 50% Then I stopped after I'd watched them karting for a bit. I'd stopped at the Starbucks for lunch. they had a BYD rapid charger there. There were no queues, so I stopped. I thought, get up to 50%. Then I drove back via Manchester to visit someone else, just because I thought, let's just make the journey even longer. So then stopped at the new B charging hub, which is a load of chem power chargers. I thought, well, I need to have some food now. I was there for 54 minutes and then got all the way back to Swansea via Alex's house, actually, as well, just for extra measure, and got back here with 10% left. And I think that's the thing, is people, as EV drivers, maybe we are guilty of oversimplifying, because we've learned things about what networks to avoid. Obviously, I'm not going to mention any of them, but I know what charging networks not to bother stopping at. And I know which charging networks work really well. And I mean, geeky level of it, I even know what chargers work particularly well. I mean, that's why in the Starbucks, I mean, I know some people have issues with the BYD chargers. They can be quite picky sometimes on cars and stuff and what speeds it is, but it worked perfectly. So it wasn't an issue.
Yeah. Do you find, Kev, and people don't believe me when I say I don't wait for a charge. I don't plan my journeys around charging. Charging doesn't dictate my life. I think because I am an experienced EV driver, and like you mentioned, which networks to use, which chargers to use, when to stop, and people comment on my content saying, "Oh, you've had to stop," or "You stopped because the car needed a charge." Well, it's actually the opposite way around. Like, we have to stop. And it just so happens that I've got into the habit of charging my car whilst I'm stopped. Charge while stopped, always be charging. All these sayings that we have, an experienced EV driver, they are very, very true. Now, if you're new to EV, and yes, you might have a little bit of anxiety. Yes, you might need to plan your journeys a little bit, but that goes away very, very quickly. I don't plan. I'm in London a lot. Drive from Lancashire down to London. My Model Y's got about 200 miles of range. It's only a rear-wheel drive. I just get on the road. I've left my house with 20% and got on the road to London, because I know that 100 miles down the road, 80 miles down the road, I'm going to stop. I'll just stop it on charge while I'm stopped, and then I'll get back on the road again. And yeah, the EV works around me rather than me working around the EV, and people don't believe that's actually true. When you speak to EV drivers, they'll tell you it's very true.
Yeah, because I did have a plug-in hybrid on test, and when I gave it back, I had to put some fuel in it. And I'm like, oh, it's a lot of hassle. Like, it's easy if I can fill the electric bit on my drive, but having to put some fuel in it, it's like, oh, it's a lot of effort to go out and find the fuel station.
And very expensive.
Yeah.
Kev and I cut our teeth driving Zoe's long distances. I mean, if you want to know what it was really like, by comparison, everything's so easy. I mean, a lot of cars these days now will plan routes, including the shortest possible detours and charging stops along the way. Yeah. Tesla was first with that. No, Volvo, Polestar, Stellantis have got that system now. Volkswagen stuff does that as well. Volkswagen Group stuff does that. That all makes things easier and just gives people that kind of sense of not having to really think about it. And I mean, we've got perhaps one of the most difficult long distance EVs going. We have a Peugeot e-Rifter as a family car. And even in that, I mean, with the kids on board, which is if we're going anywhere in that car, we're going somewhere with the kids on board. After 100 miles or so, the kids certainly need to get out of the car and leg stretch and stuff. And because it's only got a 45 kilowatt hour battery and does maximum about 95 kilowatts of charging in real terms, most of the time I'm having to come out and unplug it before the kids have had dinner. So it's that kind of, and that is, and I kind of say to people, I mean, in that we still do have to think about charging when we're going somewhere, because it's, I mean, 130 miles fully charged. You, generally speaking, you have to plan that somewhere into the trip. But even in a car like that, that's about as difficult as it could possibly be to go long distance in an EV these days. It's not that difficult at all.
No, I think once you get used to it, and this is the thing, and I know we're going to come on to the topic, Tim, this is the fear of change. Once you get used to it and you get over that initial, I think, 2 to 6 weeks of getting used to the tech and getting used to chargers and when to charge at home, when you charge at work, maybe, because that's another big thing that people don't mention. Workplace charging is on the rise massively. And I get comments and messages of people saying that my work, I've just installed chargers. I charge for free at work. And they're a little bit shocked that they can get an EV through Salary Sacrifice and charge at work for free. Like, they're absolutely loving it. But that initial 6 weeks can be quite daunting. There's not a lot of information out there. Dealerships, I find, aren't the best at giving information and education in that initial handover stage, which is a shame. I've worked in dealerships in the past, and all we cared about was that sale. Once you got that sale and the commission, it's almost like next. And that has to change. Education has to grow. The government have to do more. People like myself and other people in the industry, like you guys on the call, have to keep doing what we're doing to help people and help businesses. But once you get over that initial stage, that initial month, I think it gets very easy, and people realize how much more efficient they actually are.
Yeah, I think the biggest tip that actually Alex was on the same event. The biggest tip we had was from a guy who was working for the Scottish ChargePay Scotland at the time, was from Bob Murphy, that if it doesn't initialize the charge, just hold the handle up while it does the initialization and locks in. And that has saved me so many times. And that's a simple thing to tell people. A lot of cars still have issues with that.
We shouldn't have to do that, I don't think. I mean, just to add a little bit of balance, you know, the fact that we're still talking about, we're, you know, multiple, you know, whether it's EV channels or, you know, anyone in the industry is still talking about it, is, again, just to add the balance, is because it is still an issue because of, you know, the lack of education. And, you know, and this is what, you know, we're trying to strive for, and just, you know, to help people understand it. And do you think, Jordan, that the trolls are kind of, do you think they just don't understand the charging, or do you think, like I probably think, is they're just playing on this just for the views?
Yeah, I think it's too difficult to give one simple answer to. You can't just put all trolls in one pot and say they're doing it for this reason. They've all got their own reasons. A lot of it is what we say about fear of change, status quo, just sticking to what they've got because they know it works. Even if an alternative could make their life better or more convenient, most people, because of the mindset that the human race has, are comfortable with what they've got, which is fair enough. Early adopters tend to be people that are more open-minded. Early adopters are people that will accept change or take a risk or want some excitement, and they're the ones that have benefited. I changed 7 years ago, and I think I wouldn't even want to say how much money I've saved on motoring. It's just insane. But you have fear of change, you have lack of education, you've got people that are just downright stubborn, people that are just too stuck in their ways to even want to change. And that's fair enough. Like, you can have whatever you want. You don't have to abuse me, which I do. I get a lot of abuse. You don't have to abuse me for my choice, because I don't abuse you for your choice. It's about choice, and it's about education. And even when that deadline comes in, whenever they decide to bring it in, there will be, and I say this all the time, there'll be more choice in the future than there has been in the past. I passed my test 19 years ago, and my only choice was petrol or diesel. If I was to pass my test today, my choices would be EV, full electric, hybrid, petrol, or diesel. In 2030 or 2035, my choice would be full EV, used petrol, used diesel, or used hybrid. So you have more choice now than you've had in the past, but yet you're complaining that things are being taken away from you. It's not. Change your mindset into a more positive mindset and realize that the change that we're going into gives you more options.
Yeah, because I mean, I've been accused myself of being anti-EV, because, as we say, it's polar on both sides, because I tested a plug-in hybrid. It's like, it's another, as you say, another one of those choices, and it's just like, I just don't get it.
The trouble is, there's a cultural element to this, isn't there? Which I think we've touched on in the past. I mean, I've had, I always give this as an example, as a kind of a strange moment where I had, I was driving around in an Astra diesel for a while. It was one of the few diesel press cars that was left, and I did the first trip about a week after it arrived, was for an event in Essex, and it did all the way to Essex from Cardiff on quarter of a tank or so. It was like nothing at all. Yeah, it's about a quarter of a tank. And I put up a post and saying, you know, it's like kind of strange to find a car that can still do this. And before I had a chance to go, but it was unnecessary, because how often do you actually need that? And also, ironically, the meeting was at GridServe in Braintree. So I drove a diesel car there, and it sat all day when it could have been charging if it had been an EV, and it's only 200 miles away. But by the time I'd written that second post, I'd already had 2 or 3 people going, yes, but it's like, the whole debate from both sides needs to calm down a little bit, and they need more of that grey area, I think, and kind of accepting that both things have got their pros and cons, and not to everyone seems to get very, very het up about it, and kind of there's almost a love of fighting about it, I think, which doesn't help.
I think because naturally, as a human race, as a species, we are always divided. No matter what the topic is, we are always divided, whether it be politics, religion, choice of car, choice of house, all this sort of stuff. And you've got the extremes of both sides. Now, I would put myself leaning more towards pro EV, but I do add context, I do add balance. I can talk about both. I've driven both for an extended period of time. I can give you my opinion and my experience of both, but we do need to calm down the extremism, not just on EVs, on everything and every walk of life. Because I get comments constantly like, I'll stick to my diesel, shove your EV. And it's like, I've just posted some information to help people and you're giving me almost abuse, telling me to shove my EV. It's a little bit unnecessary. Like, I'm quite comfortable with you having a diesel if that's what you prefer. But at the same time, you should also accept that my preference and my choice right now is full electric, and I love it.
Yeah,
and
I think the internet does kind of push the extremes, doesn't it? One way or the other, whether that's the algorithm, whether it's from a clickbait point of view, and that's what we try and do in this podcast. You know, to try and stay in that grey area, try and be balanced. You know, where we can be. Of course, we've all got a little bit of skin in the game from an EV point of view. I'm a massive petrol head, even though I haven't got a petrol car at the moment. I still consider myself a petrol head because I still watch like petrol head content and stuff. You know, I can't get away from it. That's what I was brought up, you know, in terms of like my car interests, always has been. But yeah, okay. So moving on to the cost side of things. So I know we've got a few topics. I'm not sure if we'll actually be able to cover them all. So maybe we'll have to get you back in again, Jordan. But cost of owning an EV. So, you know, and this could tie in quite nicely with, you know, battery replacements as well. I mean, this is one of the reasons I love EVs. It's because I'm tight as you like, but I love performance, and it just ticks those boxes so well for me. You know, as Alex mentioned before about, or as yourself, Jordan, about the fact that, you know, you get charged an extra £1 a minute if you're on the charger for too long. You know, I was saying, oh yeah, I need to get off the charger, because ultimately the reason why we've got a lot of the main reason I've got electric cars is because they save me the money. What have you seen in the arena around cost recently? And
so I do a lot of content on this. I recently started a salary sacrifice advice group both on LinkedIn and on Facebook, just to help answer people's questions, both from an employee point of view and an employer, the benefits that it involves. And one of the biggest topics of that is total cost of ownership. Traditionally, people look at retail price of cars and think, yes, I can afford that. No, I can't afford that. But we need to move away from that. And I think we are doing quite a good job of it, because with an EV, it's very different. And I tell people this all the time. Me not having a fuel bill, as in liquid fuel, into my tank, pays for 90% of my monthly payment on my car. My fuel bill previously was between £200 and £250 a month.
Yeah.
Every month without fail. My Tesla Model Y, I got a special offer in September last year, and it was the reason I went for this car. It's $278 a month, and people are a little bit shocked when I say that. Yes, there is a deposit on that, and there's a real-world example here where I compared my new Tesla Model Y to my best friend's new Ford Puma hybrid. When he found out how much his overall cost was versus my overall cost, he was, let's say, a little bit pissed off. He loves Tesla. He loves the cars. He loves electric vehicles. His way of thinking was that they were too expensive because of the list price, because of that retail price. When I told him that my fuel bill, my non-existent fuel bill, paid for my car, he was a little bit taken aback. And I've written down my costs. My previous petrol car, going back about 8 years, was a Ford Focus Titanium. Nice car, decent car. I think about 32, 34 retail price. It was £260 a month on a PCP. My insurance was £80. My fuel was between £2 and £250. Maintenance, £350 a year, £400 a year, servicing, all that sort of stuff. When you compare that to my current electric car, my Tesla Model Y, $278 for the car, £100 for insurance, which is £20 a month more, which is industry average at the moment. £30 a month on charging, which is the big difference between fuel and charging. 95% of my charging is at home. Not everyone can charge at home. Let's just put that out there. My maintenance is almost zero. The only maintenance I've had so far is a tyre repair, which cost me £25 in 11 months. £408 a month difference between, £200 a month. £200 a month. £408 a month total for my Model Y. £200 a month less than my previous petrol car 8 years ago. So over £2,000 a year saved just from having an electric car. And people talk about depreciation. I lease my cars. I PCP all my cars. I have done for 18, 19 years. I don't suffer depreciation like people tell me that I do. It's just non-existent. My fixed monthly payment is fixed. The depreciation, whatever that car is worth after 12 months, after 3 years, doesn't matter to me. It's the leasing company's problem. And maybe we will run into an issue, whether it's sustainable. That's a completely different topic. But for me personally, and for many other EV drivers, we save a hell of a lot of money on our motoring. Whether that will always be the case, we don't know. Don't know what the future holds in terms of VAT and taxing home energy and pay per mile, whatever it might be. But for me, I save money. The older I get, the tighter I get with my money. The excitement of having an electric car is exactly what I look for in a car. So yeah, it ticked two of my major boxes.
I'm going to jump in on the depreciation front. Obviously, depreciation affects the monthly payments on your PCP and your lease, but you're still saving £200 a month despite this supposedly catastrophic depreciation.
Yes.
So if the depreciation is that awful, so yeah, if the depreciation is truly awful, you have massive monthly payments. But there you go. You know, it's But yes,
this is what I was going to come on to, because when you look at the actual data, and yes, we have all this fear and misinformation and online comments about depreciation. It's a very, very heavy topic right now. When you look at the actual data, EVs depreciate rapidly in the first 12 months. After the first 12 months, it starts to flatline a little bit. And after 3 years, the difference between ICE and EV depreciation is about 10%. Now, 10% of a figure after 3 years, when you actually look at the numbers, isn't that much. And people are a little bit shocked when you tell them that, because they only ever hear the horror stories about the first 12 months. Porsche Taycan is the big one. People only ever talk about Porsche Taycan. Not every electric car is a Porsche Taycan. Not every electric car loses 60% in 12 months.
I think part of the issue is what... Sorry, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was going to say, and that's the thing is people say about, you said the Porsche Taycan. If you look at the Porsche Panamera, another big four-door Porsche, they lose huge amounts of money and they've got an engine. It's because
they're worth about 50p after 3, isn't they? So.
Don't get me started on the 8 Series, because that depreciation is insane.
I was going to say the other thing is that I think is perhaps an issue with EVs and everything being taken as an average at the moment doesn't help in terms of looking at it in a more granular fashion. When I've looked at stuff from the likes of what are they called, Cox Automotive, for example, I think it was, put out a report last year saying that ID3, Nero, and Model 3 are some of the fastest selling vehicles on dealer forecourts at the moment. I think the problem with the depreciation side of things and the slow selling side of things is that because there's this artificial stimulation in terms of the company car market, particularly, where you're kind of getting a lot of people who are able to afford, say, through salary sacrifice and other schemes, to get a subsidized but still expensive car. The market is kind of quite flooded with quite expensive EVs. Once you start getting stuff like, the cheaper end stuff kind of washing through, those are going to help with that overall average, because those are cars that the petrol and diesel equivalents of those would depreciate slower than the kind of the higher end luxury stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that is distorting the market as well, which doesn't really help.
For sure. I think there's a major education piece needed here in terms of why that depreciation is happening in the first 12 to 18 months, which is the main part of the depreciation that we see. That's when we see the main drop. When you compare it to the ICE vehicle industry, which has had between 60 and 100 years to sort itself out, to become the norm, EV industry only really got going in 2019. I know you can say we had the Leaf previous to that, we had Tesla previous to that, but it only really took off in 2019. We're 6 years in. The technology is advancing at such a rapid rate in terms of the cars themselves, new models being released, charging technology, battery technology is a big one, because new cars are coming out with new technology on them. That affects residual values, that affects used car prices. And in 20 years, will we still be having the same conversation about depreciation? I don't think we will. We are in a major transition stage, and you have to add context and education to this depreciation conversation, because people will just jump in and say, EVs depreciate, your EV's losing money, how are you affording this depreciation? But it's not actually what you think it is. A real EV driver can tell you their own experience, and it will not match the misinformation that you see on social media.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to note as well with sort of the leasing model and stuff like that is the one thing people never mention is all these leasing companies have terms in place, so they don't pay the sticker price. They pay what's been pre-agreed, and there are some big discounts that they negotiate because a leasing company might say to, I don't know, Hyundai, we'll take 1,000, and they won't charge. Hyundai won't charge them the same for taking 1,000 as if you were a retail person and went and bought one. And these are the things that people forget. So they haven't lost necessarily as much money as people think because they didn't necessarily pay as much money as people think.
Well, I actually worked this out recently because somebody asked me the question, what will Tesla do with the massive losses that they'll suffer on my Model Y when I hand it back? And when I actually broke down the figures, when you consider the supercharging network, the data that Tesla have got on me, which I personally don't mind, handing back that car as a premium used vehicle back to Tesla, they won't suffer like people think they suffer. And I'll take a new one from Tesla. So they're going to get that continued custom. They're going to get that continued registration from people like myself. So yeah, they're not suffering like people say they're suffering, just like I'm not suffering like people say I am.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm the used man, you know, I was a used car buyer for 7 years. I've loved the used market. And for quite a long time, I've seen that there have been some good electric cars out there, like some of the ones that have been mentioned, you know, which are price range, which you compare that to a comparable petrol, diesel, automatic, and there's some really good value cars out there.
Well, you've only got to look at, Tim, that news we had last week about record used EV sales in the UK, a 40% rise in used EV sales in July. Yes, because of building trust. Yes, because of continued education, and a big part of it is price. Yes, we're seeing depreciation on one side, but at the other time, people like yourself, Tim, are picking up absolute bargains. My dad was one of them. He picked up a 2-year-old Hyundai Kona. I'm a big fan of the Kona. What, 5 miles per kilowatt hour? It's a fantastic little car. He picked it up for 14 grand. That car will last him 12, 15 years. I'm quite confident of that. The value for money on that car is well above anything that he could have got in that same price range because he charges it at home, and the savings that he's got on that car, someone will have paid full price for that Kona, but he's got a bargain on the used market.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we should. I don't think we should get into the fact that, you know, some people can take advantage of home charging. Not everyone can. I think that's another thing that we can talk about, because that is still an issue, of course. And like we mentioned before about education, it's something that the government needs to step into help. And I know that there's work that's been done with, you know, gully charge, turbo charge, gully way, kind of points for terraced housing, so you can feed your AC charger lead into where you park your car. Not always going to be able to park it there because, you know, we know what terraced streets are like. But I don't want to dwell on that. But we know that's an issue. We're not covering over that. I think what would be a good idea is also to just say thanks everyone for whacking in the comments. I will get to everything there. But as some of the ones that I've been highlighting, people saying about the deals that people have had in the secondhand market. So yeah, you're not alone. And I've had quite a few of my friends and people reach out to me recently, just, you know, that want to start making that step, because that confidence, this is the key. And I'll talk about it in electric transition of fleet as well. It's that confidence. Once people have got that confidence that actually the infrastructure is there now, you know what, the reliability is there. These vehicles don't, you know, the batteries don't blow up. They don't, you know, set fire like randomly. You know, that confidence is really, really building. So let's just switch over.
I was going to say one thing on the used front. The other thing that's obviously influencing it is supply. The market grew massively. You know, with the used markets now picking up the supply of new cars that was in the influx of kind of fleet cars a few years ago, which is also great news. It means that as a used buyer, you're suddenly, your choice of used vehicles is increasing in line with the growth of the market 3 years ago. Whether you're a fleet buyer, you know, whether you're a retail buyer or somebody who's on, I mean, I know there's an uptick in kind of used leasing, albeit still on a small scale. You've, as a buyer, you've got a great stock of vehicles coming through at the moment, which is good news.
Yeah, I mean, is that something that needs to be done more of? Is actually, we've transitioned for new cars to that model of leasing and fully maintained. You know, is that a model that they should be almost doing approved leased used vehicles? Because that could be a way to, you know, get people's payments.
Yeah, and you don't have being You don't have to worry about being behind the times in terms of your, not meeting the latest Euro 6 regulations or having behind the times CO2 emissions that are a generation old, like you would with a petrol or diesel car.
Yeah, I mean,
and just to mention on, I was going to talk about that confidence, this, state of health tests that are coming out. BCA and are giving state of health reports for traders to when they're purchasing the car that they can then highlight to their customers again. Growing the confidence that actually that battery is going to be okay, and that was something that I highlighted on the Tesla that I bought, which has pretty awful battery degradation, but still absolutely fine for what we needed and the use case. So,
and I think
what were you going to say?
And I think this is where I've noticed some YouTubers are playing on this state of health thing as well by misinterpreting battery state of health things. So if it reports an error, it needs further investigation. And I've seen some YouTubers then flag that car's gone back in the market with a dangerous battery. And it's not. It's just what's the big thing as EV drivers? What's the Achilles heel of actually most modern cars, not just EVs? What goes wrong which gives you errors when you do tests? What's the big thing that all the cars have, the primitive thing that gives them errors if that's, say, low on voltage? The 12-volt battery. And lots of these tests will fail if the 12-volt battery's flat and you replace the 12-volt battery, run the test again, everything's fine because its computer's like, oh, I don't know what to do about that because voltage is wrong. And that's what people, and it's all the anti-EV stuff around it when it's literally just a 12-volt battery. I've replaced a 12-volt battery in my Ioniq 5 and the warranty.
I've replaced a 12-volt battery in a 34-year-old petrol car. So that wasn't very keen on low voltage either.
Just to get the progression on the topic point. So if we just switch it to the green side, I say the green side, it's such a general theme, isn't it? In terms of the environmental impact. So what I think I see it quite a bit on content out there. I think I've seen it on your channel as well, Jordan, on your different platforms. What are you seeing at the moment with regards to EVs aren't green, lithium mines where the kids are apparently, Jordan, as you know. What are you seeing? Do you think that's changed? Because the kind of rhetoric just seems to be the same. It's just like
you can probably see my blood pressure starting to rise the more we talk about this. This is one of the things that, forgive the pun, really grinds my gears. Like, it drives me insane. I am constantly fighting a losing battle with this, and you've hit the nail on the head there, Tim. These lithium mines, children in lithium mines, like. People are commenting things that they don't even have the basic knowledge on. Like, where are they picking this stuff up? And when I go back to people that say things like this, what do I think about child slavery? What do I think about parts for my car being produced by child slavery? I go back to them and I say, look, all forms of slavery and slave labor is wrong. Point blank wrong. What do you think, Mr. Petrol Driver, about the fact that cobalt is needed to refine the fuel that goes into your car? And they suddenly get very sheepish and they go, "Oh, I didn't know that." And well, you're accusing me of being wrong, but at the same time, you don't actually realize what goes into your car. One thing that you have to look at is, again, total overall lifespan. Now, there's things within that we can't challenge, we can't change. Mining will always be mining, whether it be for oil, whether it be for minerals. It will always have practices that are wrong. I can't affect that. Diesel driver can't affect that, even though he needs cobalt to refine his fuel that goes into his car. The only thing that we can affect is total overall life cycle emissions. A recent report came out from the ICCT, International Council for Cleaner Transport, showing that over a comparable life cycle, an EV comes out roughly 73% greener. That incorporates every cycle of that EV, from manufacturing, production, mining, driving on the roads, to recycling. And when we get to this recycling, again, there's another huge educational piece here that people don't realize, that these batteries in cars have got second, third, and sometimes fourth lives. You look at companies like Connected Energy, for example, they are doing some amazing stuff with batteries after they come out of a vehicle. Geotab, another one that I use for my sources, they reported recently, I think it was June this year, that the average EV is seeing 1.8% degradation per year. which means that EVs are lasting as a useful amount of time, 15 to 20 years. The average petrol car in the UK is scrapped at 14 years. So we're already seeing EVs going beyond that, sometimes well beyond that. So yeah, batteries and green as a topic is something that is swinging more towards EVs. There's lots of positives there, there's lots of benefits there. And it's the education piece again. 73% greener is a huge number. One of the comments that I get over and over again is, I'm not saving the planet by getting an EV. I never claim to be saving the planet. I don't think me personally as an individual can save the planet. And I didn't get an EV to save the planet. I got an EV because of the two things that I mentioned earlier, excitement and cost. The fact that it's greener for me, and everyone's different, is a huge, huge bonus. Recently, we had the first child die from air pollution, a little girl called Ella Adu. I think she was 9 years old. She had an asthma attack because of local air pollution. Local air pollution in London over the last 10 years has actually started to improve. The only thing that could have impacted that is a change of transport mode. It's a switch to electric vehicles in areas of high population, which is where Ella lived. She lived in a high vehicle traffic area. It disrupted her asthma. She had an asthma attack, and unfortunately, she passed away. The coroner and the death certificate actually say on it local air pollution. So this is why EVs are so important. Yes, they might not save the planet. They might not even be able to save the planet. Who knows? But one thing that they can impact is local air pollution, and we're already seeing it happen, which is a major, major benefit that these people that are anti-EV, for whatever reason, don't realise.
And this is the thing that people who moan about EVs and stuff, saying that, you know, we all know EV batteries can be recycled. They're moaning on one of these, which is a throwaway device, which people put in landfill with how much. Yeah, I can see a future where we start mining landfill for all the waste that we've chucked away with consumer electronics, with vapes, and all these things that have small lithium-ion batteries in that have become so cheap, people don't care enough to recycle.
Yeah, and they accuse EV drivers of taking advantage of child slave labor for cobalt without realizing that the cobalt industry has been around for 100 years. It's in building materials, it's in dyes and paints and alloys, and it's in mobile phones, and it's in electronic. It's everywhere. And one of the biggest use cases is in the oil industry. And it's crazy. It's crazy to think about.
I always say I did. So last year I took our Rifter, which I know I've moaned is a relatively short range car, to go and get some fuel for my old car in the garage. I filled a jerry can with 5 litres of super unleaded and brought it back, and realised on the way that 5 litres of super unleaded is about 45 kilowatt hours of energy, which is about the same as what's in the Rifter battery. Now, the Rifter is not aerodynamic. It's not overly efficient as an EV. The tech in it isn't particularly efficient, and it'll do 130 miles on a jerry can of fuel, and it's a 7-seat MPV. And you just think, when you look at it like that, you kind of go, oh my God, that's, you know, that gives some idea of the efficiency. And then you kind of, people kind of, the one I always get is like, yeah, but when you plug it in, you're just using like coal-fired power stations. You've got to count that. It's like, okay, fine. So the 0 grams per kilometer thing is kind of irrelevant. But if you're going to count that for the EV, you've got to count getting the oil out the ground, refining it, transporting it all over the world, and all the rest of it that goes into that as well. Like, there's no direct fair comparison with it without doing a huge amount of research on the petrol side, because a lot of the petrol CO2 emissions just talks about point of use, doesn't it? It doesn't never talks about the supply chain that goes into it.
Yeah, one of the things.
It's a hollow argument.
Yeah, one of the things that I kind of I've become quite good at putting people back on the back foot when they come and attack me for being an EV driver. You put them on the back foot with a question back to them. One of the things that they never really understand is this hits me. Well, how are you charging your EV? Where are you getting the power from? You're burning coal, which in the UK we don't burn any more coal. When you go back to them and say, my EV is charged by the exact same power that is powering your home, they go, what do you mean? Now, well, I charge my car through Octopus Energy. The majority of that is renewable energy in the same way that you're powering your home. And they don't get it because they haven't actually stopped and thought about things before they say them. They've never actually researched the things that they supposedly know. They just want to be anti-EV for any given reason. And And I put a post up recently. I think something like 70% of the energy into my car has been renewable since I got it in September, which is makes it. I think I broke even. This is that break even point that we haven't talked about yet. About 10,000 miles, which I'm now on 11,000 miles. So every mile that I do from now on makes my car greener and greener and greener, whilst the petrol and diesel cars continue to spit out that emissions, which my car now doesn't have, especially charging through Octopus overnight, 60-70% renewable energy. It's leaps and bounds ahead in terms of greenness, for lack of a better word.
I like a saying that, I think Robert Llewellyn coined it, is your electric car is fuel agnostic. It doesn't care if the electricity comes from nuclear, coal, renewables. So as the grid gets greener, your EV gets greener, whereas a petrol car will always be burning a fossil fuel. It's, I mean, okay, you could argue the synthetic fuels might technically mean, but it's still burning something, whereas your EV can be as green as you like. Technically, one day your car could be technically nuclear powered, one day it could be wind powered, one day it could be solar powered. It all depends on what that mix is in that day.
Yeah, I think a little bit of context here and education again is important for the people that are anti-EV, that do doubt EV's greenness. Go on research, and I mean actually research how energy inefficient one oil jack is. Go and find out how much oil is needed to bring the oil out of the ground. It is mind blowing how inefficient the oil mining industry is.
Then refining it, then transporting it, and then again, absolutely. And that's a big thing from a EV point of view, is the efficiency. Was it circa 90% efficient compared to ICE, which is again, I'd have to double check the exact percentage. I think it's something like 30%, because so much is lost in heat and all the other inefficiencies of an ICE vehicle. Bear in mind, this is coming from a petrol head.
And this is
in the past, and I do still.
This is another thing as well about. I get so many messages now about people that are coming to the realization that an EV might be better for them. And one of the things that they've actually come across recently is when they go and put £60 of fuel in their car, less than £20 of that actually goes to moving the wheels. When I put £4.50 in my electric vehicle, which is what it cost me to charge at home, about £4.40 of that goes to moving the wheels. That's the difference in efficiencies. And that fuel bill racks up very, very quickly. For people that do similar mileage to me, talking about £3,000 a year, £2,000 a year just on fuel.
Yeah.
And when you're only getting between 20 and 30% efficiency to the wheels, people kind of think, well, I'm being played here. I'm being ripped off a little bit. Like, why should I have that? Why should I be paying this and getting this when I can go and get this and get this? So yeah, it's a learning curve, and people are starting to realize that an EV might suit them for various different reasons.
But to bring some balance to this as well is that efficiency, I think, in some ways has made EV manufacturers a bit on the lazy side. We all know they can do the efficiency thing. If you look back to the Ioniq, when batteries couldn't be big, the original Ioniq did a lot with not much battery. And I think now that the batteries being cheaper and stuff like that has made manufacturers being made them in some respects a bit lazy. Because the Ioniq 9, as good as it, not the Ioniq 9, the EV9, as good as it is a massive vehicle. And you think that manufacturers do need to, I think they need to focus a bit. They are starting to now. Like, I know the new Corsa is much better than the old one, and there's brands that are doing that. But I think there does need to be a focus and an education piece that people maybe don't need necessarily big SUVs.
Yeah, I think there's a whole other topic here that we probably don't have time for, but you mentioned that manufacturers currently having the battery technology they've got at their disposal might not be the same in 2 years' time. They're putting all this work into lithium batteries, but yet in 2 years' time, it is quite possible, and I've seen experts in this field mention within the next 18 months, we could have solid-state batteries in electric vehicles on the roads, which improves efficiency, increases safety, reduces charge time, it holds charge better. There's so many things that are coming that people don't realize. And not everything will be lithium-ion batteries. We won't always have this. It will be something else, no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, that's the excitement of the electric side of things, is this technology is just coming on leaps and bounds, whereas ICE vehicles, they're kind of, it's like tiny increments of improvements. We've got some LED lights this year, in 2011 on your Audi A6.
Well, that's it. I read an article, it must be going back about a year, talking about the difference in electric and ICE. And an ICE vehicle's almost peaked in terms of efficiency, in terms of technology. There's not much wiggle room for them to improve that. Even the best engineers in the world work on this every single day, and they can't get the engine to be more than what it currently is, because they've almost maxed out efficiency. They've almost maxed out efficiency of the engine and all that sort of stuff. Whereas an EV, we're still progressing. There's still so much that can be done in terms of technology that, yeah, it blows my mind finding out new things, and I do this every single day.
Yeah. One thing I was going to ask Jordan is there anything you think that people aren't talking about at the moment? Anything that I know that I've probably sprung this one on you a little bit, not on the agenda, but do you think there's anything that we should be talking about more?
Oh, total overall cost, without a doubt in my mind, because we haven't been programmed to think that way. And it's one of the things that I talk about a lot with clients on the business side rather than the content side that I do. Obviously, I support businesses, I support individuals in terms of EV uptake and the sustainability and things like that. And when you tell someone to look at the total overall cost, they go, what's that? And I'll say, right, get a pen and paper, write down the cost of the diesel car, the insurance, your fuel bill, your maintenance, write down the cost of the EV car, the insurance, the maintenance, and your charging costs, and you come back in an hour and tell me which one's better for your pocket. And the amount of times that, I won't say it works, because I'm not here to convince people to get an EV, but they come to the realization themselves of what car they would prefer long term. And the sooner that we get into this mindset of total overall cost, I think the better for everybody. Because I have friends now that are still buying petrol and diesel cars thinking that it's better for them. They could charge at home. My friend with the Puma, for example, could charge at home. He's got a drive, got a nice house, and he got the Ford Puma thinking that that's all he could afford. And when he found out that my Model Y was costing me less than he was paying for his, he was a little bit annoyed because he hadn't been taught to think about total overall cost.
And just to be absolutely clear here, that the TCO really only, in my opinion, really only works if you've got either charging at home or space at home where you can do overnight.
Yes, so that is the big factor. So the people that we're seeing switch to EVs are those that can either A, charge at home, or B, charge at work. Now, workplace charging is on the rise significantly, and rightly so. They have the space, they have the car park. Staff's car are parked for a long period of time. They should be utilised in a better way than just being parked. On the flip of that, and to add some context, most people that buy new cars have got a driveway. People that don't have a driveway, and I'm not just putting people into categories here, people that don't have a driveway tend to drive used cars. That's just the data that we see. So people in terrace houses, for example, people in apartment blocks would naturally sway towards a used vehicle or a petrol vehicle because of that convenience of having one. So yes, we can have EVs. Yes, we can have petrol and diesel. And yes, it can work for everybody because people will tend to go towards a vehicle that suits them. If you don't have off-street parking or a driveway, then you probably wouldn't ever even consider an EV. If that makes sense, it wouldn't come into your thought process. So you wouldn't need to think about total overall cost. You would just sway towards something that suits your lifestyle and your preference.
Unless you've got, of course, charging at work, or you've
exactly. And that's growing. I get messages pretty much weekly. I won't say daily, I'd say weekly, from people that ask me the question, I can get an EV and charge it at work. What do you think? And they'll ask me because they're not sure. And I said to them, well, how much are work going to charge you? How often do you think you'll charge it? How many miles a week do you do? And you have to work out whether it suits you. I can't tell you that. I can give you some advice. But 9 times out of 10, maybe even higher than that, if you can charge at work for less than 30 pence per kilowatt hour, and a lot of them are free, an EV will work out more cost efficient than a petrol or diesel. Absolutely. And when you put them into buckets of people that can charge at home and people that can charge at work, that becomes a very, very big portion of the population.
And I think again, it's important to highlight though as well efficiencies, because and I'm going to pick on it, but you take like the original Audi e-tron electric SUV. I mean, the miles per kilowatt on that is like 2 miles per kilowatt. But when you look at the Kia Niros, the Hyundai Konas, Tesla Model 3, etc., you're talking, at least 3 miles per kilowatt, even in the winter, plus. So these are other things just to factor in as well. Sorry, Alex.
Definitely, and that's part of the research. Sorry, Alex. And one of the things that I never recommend is the Audi range, because that efficiency is so poor. And it's my job, I feel, to steer people towards the right product for them. I won't ever tell them what's best for them. I'll steer them and I'll advise them. Audi have got so much work to do to catch.
Yeah.
Nope.
They're obviously watching.
I think Jordan's come off. I mean, it is a full on. Oh, you're back again.
Yeah, so when you consider the likes of Kia and Hyundai that are at 4 and 5 miles per kilowatt hour, Audi is so far behind. As a legacy manufacturer as well, they should be so much better.
And also, Kia and Hyundai have been at that for like 7 years now. Like, why has nobody caught out his witchcraft stuff?
Yeah. But that comes into the total overall cost conversation again. It's research and total overall cost. I get so many people tell me that they've had an EV and gone back to diesel because the car was crap. I'm like, well, no, the car wasn't crap. The car didn't match your needs, your preference. You got the wrong car. It's buyer's remorse. And you blame the car to avoid the embarrassment on yourself. It's just, do your research, and total overall costs are huge.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sorry, Kevin, did you have something to chip in with? Sorry.
I mean, they are starting to improve, though. I mean, you look at the kind of stellar jump Stellantis products have done since the first versions to the new ones. Literally, I had a Corsa E on test. On my Eco Loop, it's the highest efficiency I've ever got at 8.1 miles per kilowatt hour.
Wow.
And when you think how poor the earlier products were...
Kev, you are extraordinary, though. You're extraordinary when it comes to efficiency.
World record holder, should I say? Guinness World Record holder.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's just write that in there.
but this is the thing. Can you imagine if every EV got 8 miles per kilowatt hour as the norm? It would be insane.
It's only us that's stopping it, Jordan, because it can be done.
It's possible. Yeah, it can be done.
But even on an inefficient one, I mean, we are still on a flat rate tariff. We haven't done it properly. We've got a relatively efficient, quite large EV. Our Rifter has halved our fuel costs per month, and we're not making any other adaptations at all. That's just plugging it in whenever on a flat rate tariff. So, easy.
And there's another extreme of this, and you guys have probably seen it on LinkedIn. The people that are actually making money from having an EV, people that are selling energy back to the grid, people that are having solar and battery storage installed, having no fuel bill, no charging bill, and making a profit. Like the possibilities with EV and other technology in solar and battery storage is almost limitless. Like, there's so much you can do, and it's, for me, I find it all interesting, and not everyone will. But I had a guy tell me he's making £50 a month from Octopus, so he's got no car payment because the trading with Octopus pays for it, no fuel bill, and his solar and battery storage actually makes him a profit. So obviously he's loving life.
I'm conscious that we normally go for an hour. Sometimes we overrun a little bit, but I would like to talk about some of the EV trials. Do you want to just give us a bit of an overview of maybe a couple of the ones that you've been focusing on and what they're doing? You don't have to name names, but what they're doing.
Yeah, well, I've seen a pattern at the moment. Obviously, I had a Facebook page for about 2 years. I never really used it. It had about 300 followers on there. I never really posted, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to make a real conscious effort to post on there, see if it'll grow, almost out of my own interest. And I started posting 2 months ago, and it's gone from 300 followers to about 2.5, approaching 3,000 followers now, doing 2 million views a month. One of the things that I found, which I do find quite concerning, is all the people that I've blocked over on TikTok for either being abusive, for outright lying, spreading misinformation, spreading fear, which I don't agree with. I accept people have opinions, but you shouldn't be allowed to spread lies. They're finding me on Facebook. They're actually actively searching for me on other social platforms and then leaving the same type of comment again.
I bet.
Which as someone who posts content, can be quite alarming. Like, these people are actively searching me out online on other platforms to either abuse me or to spread lies about EVs. Like, imagine the energy that takes out of someone's life to do that. Imagine the passion that they've got and the anger that they've got to be anti-EV, to do that. Like, if you take a step back and think about that behavior, it's just utterly bizarre. It's weird. But yeah, I get everything. I get everything from I'm a liar, I'm paid by Tesla. I've even been accused of being paid by the UK government. And if anyone's watching from the UK government, please reach out, because I'm doing your job for you in terms of education. Please start paying me for educating EV drivers and future EV drivers. But every penny that I earn is earned. I don't get paid for my content. My channels aren't big enough. I get paid from generating leads, from helping businesses, salary sacrifice, and I do a little bit of marketing for the likes of CarWow at the moment and Stagecoach. So every penny that I earn is actually earned in the EV space from the channels that I've built. I don't need to be paid by Tesla. I will get paid by Tesla if they want me to. Absolutely. UK government, please pay me. But yeah, I get all sorts of accusations. I've been called every name under the sun, from questioning my hairline to questioning my weight to asking how happy my missus is because I'm a miserable B word. That I spend all my time talking about EVs. Apparently, I've got no life, and I would be no fun at parties as well, which is always nice to hear.
Maybe we need to organise one then.
Yeah. I had one guy trolling me on Friday night just gone, and he was telling me that I had no friends, I had no life, my missus must hate me, but he spent 4 hours on Friday night commenting on my posts.
The irony.
Self-awareness.
It's so weird. Like, I even openly say to these people, you're doing me a favor. You're doing exactly what I want you to do by driving my algorithm. And even when I tell them that, they continue to do it. And this is why I say the behavior behind that is bizarre. Have an opinion, be quite strong with your opinion, but to be anti anything comes back to what we talked about right at the start of the conversation. It comes down to that extreme level of left or right or pro or con or whatever it might be. Imagine how extreme you must be to hate someone like me for doing something that I find interesting. Bizarre. But I poke the bear, I bring it on, I use them, and I'll continue to do that. I've got very, very thick skin. I told my brother and my dad recently, someone called me Mr. Wobbles online. And the laugh that we got from it, we were howling. We were reading the comments and we were howling, laughing. But this guy, whoever's called me Mr. Wobbles, must be sitting there really unhappy, really miserable, and need to put somebody else down to make himself feel good. And I openly tell these people that, like, you can't say anything to affect me, because I'll just keep baiting you to comment more and more and more, which means my channels get more and more followers and means that I reach people that are genuinely interested.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a win for me, and they're wasting so much time.
This is it. I think we should leave it there, but just everyone that's commented, thank you so much. And sorry I didn't really get to everyone. There was one comment in there that I think we'll speak about next week, which was about electric cars in Shetland. So we'll cover that next time. But yeah, anyone that's not following Jordan, he's on. Go on, you might as well reel them off. I'm guessing
all
Facebook.
of them. You can just search Jordan the EV guy on Google, and you can find me on TikTok, Instagram. LinkedIn's the main one. You'll see two different sides of me. You'll see LinkedIn Jordan and Facebook Jordan. They are very different people. But yeah, go and find me. Come and interact, whether you are pro EV or anti EV. I love all of you.
No, absolutely. No, thanks for that. And what we normally do, Jordan, is we talk about what we're doing this week. I'll start it off. So I'm back in work after 2 weeks off. Had my first week back at work. So just, shaking the rust off in the EV fleet area and decarbonisation. And video got coming out this week on Chargeheads on Wednesday, usual time, 7 o'clock, is about some upgrades to Rusty. So looking forward to getting that video out. Alex, what are you up to this week?
Mostly Secret Squirrel, doing the last of a little bit of work in the garage on a wheel swap for my project car, which is which I'll talk about more another time. But I'll find out this week whether we have any scrubbing anywhere, which will be an interesting experience. But fingers crossed.
Modified cars till I die. Kev, what about yourself?
So the Skywell goes back on tomorrow. And then I'm swapping into a Capri. And before anyone says, I know the Capri has become an SUV now, but I think, it's Ford own the name. They can call whatever car they want a Capri. So I'm going to be testing that and seeing how efficient that is. It'll be interesting because it's a combination of, it's a Volkswagen platform with the Capri, but with lots of Ford infotainment. So it'd be interesting to see how they mesh together.
Yeah, I look forward to the report on that. Thanks, Kev. John, what are you up to this week?
Yeah, this will be a little bit of insight for people that haven't actually come across me or do know what I do during the week. So my day job this week, I've got meetings with people discussing salary sacrifice, saving companies money, saving employees money. On Thursday, I'm up in Stockton. I'm visiting Stagecoach, doing some content filming for them. And I think Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll be filming content for Carwow. So you can, watch out for those content coming out.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys, and thanks to everyone who commented. Please like, share the YouTube live. Don't forget, we're on X, and I always post a video on Spotify, literally the same evening or the next day, unless I'm off. But if you want to listen to the start of it on the car, if you missed it, whack it on Spotify. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much indeed.
Awesome. See you.